And just in terms of fiscal austerity, these are messages I've heard from both of you in the past. This seems like a pretty tough time to try and get that message out. It wasn't a message that people took too kindly, even in flush times. David, how do you go about getting a message like that across at a time like this?
Well, Becky, good to be with you. First, we have to do whatever we have to do to beat COVID-19, and we will beat COVID-19. So that means that we're obviously running very high deficits. We have very loose monetary policy right now to try to stimulate the economy and help with regard to employment. But the fact of the matter is both our fiscal policy and monetary policy is unsustainable. We're much worse now than we were in 2012, for example. And neither candidate has a credible plan to restore fiscal sanity. You have to raise revenues, you have to reprioritize and reduce spending, and you have to reform social insurance programs. And if you don't do those three things, you won't solve the problem.
Heidi, when you hear what Robert was just talking about, taxes going to 62% and higher on some people, you think that's a plan? I mean, you've been in a position of having to deal with taxes on a local level. What would you be thinking right now if that was going to be your plan of action?
First off, Becky, I never look at nominal rates. I think people who always go to nominal rates and say, look, this is what's going to happen. Look at your tax return. You're in a much higher bracket, but yet your nominal or your effective tax rates are much lower. After listening, I would say I never want to hear anyone talk about how poor people don't pay taxes anymore, because if you include FICA, if you include the payroll taxes and all of this, you're going to see higher numbers, but you're also so going to see Social Security lend itself towards solvency, which deals with some of our fiscal issues. And so, let's not overreact to all this. And the Wharton study basically says that people between that even over $400,000 in gross income will actually only experience a 2.5% increase. Now, I can't speak to what happens in states because that's going to be dependent on state policy. But as to your question on SALT, Chuck Schumer has made this his hill to fight on. And so I expect that you're going to see state and local taxes once again achieve some level of deductibility on the itemized return. The problem is that not a lot of people are filing itemized returns right now because of the doubling of the standard deductions. I think the more critical part that I would like to have an answer on is whether they're going to extend those middle class tax cuts that were part of the Tax Reform Act in 2017.
What's your thought on that? Should they?
Well, I think they should. I think that was the part that could have gotten broad bipartisan support. And we're also looking at what we can do for working families. And part of the Biden plan is extending those child care credits or the child tax credits, which I think are so important, looking at refundability rather than just the credit if you pay taxes, and getting that money in the low income brackets. This is a recovery that has been heavily favored for rich people. And the bottom quartile has not done well post-COVID. And so it's so important that we understand our economy is trickle up. If you get money in the hands of people who actually need to spend that money, you're going to grow the economy. And so tax policy should all be about how do we get our economy going again? How do we help working class families achieve their results? And that's going to help everybody up and down the chain.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.